Okay, Mishlei 1526. Moving right along. To'avas Hashem machshavos ra u'tehorim imrei noam. Okay, I described this as like a mashup of just different phrases from different pasukim in this parak. Okay, so like I don't know if that makes it easier or harder. Yeah.
Bad thoughts are important to God.
Okay, yeah. So bad thoughts slash plans slash schemes. I think that's what we typically say, are an abomination to Hashem. Utorim imrinam.
And pure ones will speak nicely.
Interesting. Okay, so pure ones I could see as a translation, and pure ones, but then imre is a noun. Yeah. So
words of
yeah. So does the fact that this is a noun change how you translate Torim or
words are pure?
Yeah. I think the easiest translation is actually, and I think Noam is a noun. So I think statements of pleasantness, because how would you say? I don't know how you would say it as an adjective. Imre, no, I'm pretty sure it's a. Say again.
Like Noam Zukha.
That would also be the pleasantness of your radiance, right?
Right. I mean, isn't that an adjective?
Right, but I'm saying like, oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, Noam Zivacha, Imre Noam. Yeah, we'll see what the English translations say. I'm not confident enough in my grammar. Pleasantness, statements of pleasantness are pure. Okay, now your translation though is not out of the question. I think this is just the easier one. Let's see. Sadigon says To'avas Hashem Hamakshvos Haraos. Okay, so the evil thoughts are an abomination of Hashem. V'divrei hachachma tehorim. So he just straight up goes divrei hachachma. And statements or words of wisdom are pure. Okay, now he quotes something from Metzudas, but I kind of want to ignore that because that sounds like a commentary. Targum, I think, is a literal translation. Merachakte delaka machshavasa debishta. So then he just makes it singular. V'dachyan mile besimasa. I think besimasa is like related to like besamin, like fragrant maybe, but I could be mistaking that also. Let's see, besima, besim, pleasant, well seasoned, sweet. Yeah, so just sweet. All right, fine. So I'm not really interested in this here. Okay, art scroll. The abomination of Hashem is thoughts of evil, words of pleasantness should be pure. That's interesting. I don't know where they get the should from. Refer says the thoughts of the wicked are an abomination before the Lord, as only pure words are pleasant words. Okay, that's another type of like take on the relationship between those two statements. And then Alter says an evil man's plots are the Lord's loathing, but the sayings of the pure, so he goes like you, are sweet. And then he adds here, okay, so this is an example of an altar. Okay, the Hebrew of the received text, the Masoretic text reads, and the sweet sayings are pure. This translation adopts the reading of the Septuagint, which appears to reflect a Hebrew text that showed Imre Tahorim Yin Amu. Yeah. Okay, does that help? Are the sayings of the pure? Yeah, I guess I would be more inclined to say Tahorim is people here, based on this one. So let's keep all three of these here, and let's move it around a bit. Let's move this here. Let's move Sadigon up. Let's delete this.
Did any of the Rishonim look at the Septuagint or Shop?
Good question. I mean, Philo, he was pre-Rishonim, pre-Tanaim. So I think it's a question how much he knew, how much he was able to read the Hebrew in the original, because it seems like he did know some Hebrew, but I don't know if I think he relied on the translation. I'm not sure. Yeah, good question. I don't know. Yeah, definitely the post 1800 Achronim did, but I don't know about the Rishonim. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Questions. Yeah, Doug.
Who cares about Machshavah Lab? Nothing ever happens of it. Why does it matter? Why isn't like Taiwan Hashem Te'ulot Ra? That's the actual bad.
Okay, that's a fair question. Diving right in there. Okay, so so I'm gonna be conservative in the way I express the question, which is why machshavos rather than pu'ulos. Yeah. Because in other words, I'm not going to say, I feel like it's too loaded of a question to say that machshavos should not be a toeva, but definitely pu'ulos would seem to be the,
Especially if we're calling mishleikly, then
yeah,
practicality is what we're
right.
concerned
Okay,
about.
especially in the framework of Mishlei. Yeah, Moshe.
Are Imre Noam a good thing as opposed to Ra?
Uh,
It seems to be conscious with Ra. Is Noam the opposite of Ra?
okay, right. Okay, so let's start by saying what are Imre Noam, and then are Imre Noam. I had a little bit of a Omer slip. Pleasant sheaves. Are Imre Noam. Imre Noam. Are Imre Noam the opposite of Machshavos Ra? And if so, how? Yeah,
Which relates to that question, I don't know if this is what you were saying within that. What does God think about Imre Noam?
yeah, that's a good question also. What does God think? Actually, let's say what is how would Hashem characterize Imre Noam? Yeah.
Yeah, when reading it as statements of pleasantness versus the pure people statements. So how are they pure?
Yeah. All right, so let's go with what does Tohorim in this context mean, and how are these statements or people Tohorim? Yeah, Doug?
What are Machshavah Ra in this context?
Yeah. What are Machshavos Ra? So just splitting that up, what are Machshavos, and in what sense are they Ra? I just need a quick refresher. Hold on. I just want to see what the previous pasukim were. Oh, that's why it didn't work. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so the last pasuk we did, last two pasukim we did, Orach chaim lamala lamaskil lamansur mish olmata base game yisach Hashem v'yatsev gevul almana. Yeah, all right, fine. So not overtly connected, but we were talking about some bad guys. Yeah, yeah, David.
What is Toivan or Toavat Hashem in this context?
Yeah.
And what does that matter mishleikly?
Right. What does To'avas Hashem mean? What just happened? What does To'avas Hashem start again? What? Nope. Start again. What does To'avas Hashem mean in this context? And then I'll say also what makes this a To'avas Hashem. I'll say in this specific context and in Mishlei generally. Yeah, Sean?
I was going to ask how are they pure?
Yeah.
That was essentially the same thing as what.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Does the opposite of Hashem imply Ratzon Hashem or not necessarily?
Yeah, I'll tack that onto here. Is it Ratzon? And I do believe we've seen Toeva and Ratzon juxtaposed as opposites. Let's just check it out for a second in Mishlei. 26 To'avas Hashem. Oh, wait, it's easier if I do it this way. Okay, To'ava, no. Yeah, To'eva and Ratzon. To'eva Ratzon. Te'erav and To'avas. That's not about Hashem though. To'eva and Ratzon. To'eva, that's ours. To'eva. To'eva. All right, so we have enough instances where I think we could say that it does imply Ratzon, but I guess it's a question though, right? Hey, David?
What's the practical benefit of the second half? Like Tehorim sounds nice, but what's the benefit of being Tahor?
Yeah, okay, so what are Imre Noam? And then who cares? What's the benefit? Yeah, Sean?
Yeah, how are they Imre Noam?
Yeah, what makes them Noam? Yeah, I'll say what kind of statements of Amarim and what makes them Noam. Yeah, Arya.
It seems a little partial now.
Okay.
I mean, it just sounds like, yeah.
Why does
you
Ariel
have bad
think
thoughts?
this is
Of
partial?
course, a bad thought is bad.
Yeah.
It sounds like bad thoughts are bad and good statements are good.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. All right.
You don't-
You're entitled to think it's
Am I the
partial.
only one who sees that?
No, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
God hates bad thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pure thoughts are good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But why isn't it partial?
I think it's just cryptic.
What way?
Tahorim Imre Noam. Tahor. Why are we being Tahora? And is that not a tautology also? I mean, I don't know what tahor means. I mean, I think the thing that makes it not obvious is the tahor. And
I mean, that's
also the fact that the two halves of the pasuk don't really seem to have to do with each other. One half is about thoughts, the other half is about statements. Also, anytime you see toeva, I feel like toeva means that God really hates it.
yeah.
So what makes this worthy of such a, I don't think it's pashut.
Oh, you just listened to the questions over there.
I did. Well, you pushed me. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So let's actually broaden this here, which is how are the two halves opposites? And then you may know the opposite of Machshavah Ra, and then what is the opposite of Tahorim? Yeah, right. Tahorim in the pasuk. Yeah.
The other question you said was why is the first talking about plans and the second talking
Right,
about
yeah.
state?
Why is the first half talking about machshavos, and the second about amarim?
The unbalanced scale is also an abomination, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and the accurate one is Ratan. Yeah, what?
Yeah, also Evan.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were saying. Is that the unbalanced scale? Oh no, is that Moshe Mirma? Same sugya, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same mitzvah.
What's
Do
the
we
subject?
Yeah, that's a good question. But we'll leave it there. So future generations will know. All right. What is the subject of the pasuk?
I'm still happy with the question.
All right. No, you can
force 3
look.
questions out of you.
It's true. It's different intuitions here. I'm in favor of intelligent intuition. No, I'm just kidding.
Whatever leads to the truth.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's the spirit. Yeah.
So this isn't I'd say a precise question, but I guess actually maybe the pasuk seems very general.
Mhm.
Like it's Machshavos Ra, bad
Yeah.
and Imre Noam, I mean I guess it's maybe a little more so because it's Noam, not like Tov, but if it's not a specific question. Yeah, it just I don't know, so, like I feel like there's something about like kind of like what Ariel was saying that bad thoughts are bad and good statements are pure, but
Okay, so you agree with Ariel. I want to also ask just
I think there's enough specificity in here.
Okay, so you're not, yeah. This is kind of reflected in our translations here, but I'd say like, how do we read the second half? Right? Like, how do you read what is qualifying what and how? Like, I don't even know how to read it. So let's say here, how do you read the second half? Okay. Is it saying that Imre Noam are Tahorim, or should be Tahorim, or are what I'll just say, but sayings of the pure, or that Imre Noam are said by Tahorim. Saying I gotta capitalize my capitalizations. Yeah.
I was just gonna say about that. It's according to Alter, the noun is kind of Tahorim Imre, and it was
saying about them is that they're noam.
But the sayings of the pure are sweet.
I mean, it's not, he reads it. He
Right.
Septuagint, which has a noun.
Right. How did he say it in the Septuagint? Oh, I deleted it. Let me just go back here. He said in the Septuagint, the Imre Tahorim, right? Imre Tahorim Yinamu
Yeah.
are pleasant.
I mean, yeah,
Or sweet.
Imre Tahorim, not
Right, Imre Tahorim, right,
no,
right.
no,
Yeah,
no,
correct.
no.
Yeah. Yara?
This may be in one of the questions, but what, I mean, Machshavah's Ra, it sounds like Mishlei is already defining this individual, like, I mean, everyone has bad thoughts, like.
Okay, yeah, that was another question I wanted to know is who is it, I guess is this talking about about specific kinds of people,
Yeah.
or is this just talking about the machshavos and amarim of anyone? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and if it is about anyone, it's like a little harsh.
Yeah, right. So what is the practical application? And then like if this is if this is for everyone and about all machshavos and amarim, then like that seems like a tall order. Depending on how you define them, of course. Define these terms.
Does Mishlei ever talk in extremes about I'm not talking about like archetypes, I'm talking about like like does it exaggerate a point to to make things very clear?
Yeah. David?
Related to question 9, is the same true about would Imre Ra be a Tov Hashem, would Machshavah Noam be Tahor?
Would Imre Noam be a sorry, say it one more time?
We have insofar as the subject Nichat and the action Nichat. Would the same be true if you were to flip it?
You said it clear the first time. Just say I'm just having a time processing. Say it again.
Okay, my apologies. We're saying Machshavah Ra Tovat Hashem.
Yeah.
But would Machshavah Noam be Tahor, and would
Imre Ra?
Would Imre Ra be Tovat Hashem?
Okay, yeah. All right. So and let's see what if we flip the qualities? Would Machshavos Noam, like what about, I'll just say, what about Machshavos Noam and Imre Ra? Oh, sorry, and Imre Ra. And I also asked similarly, is it possible for both qualities to coexist? And if so, what would Hashem say about that? Right? Like there's like if you had a person who had Machshavos Ra and Imre Noam, or is that just not possible? Yeah, Isaac.
When already I have him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just clarify this here. Like, can you have a case of Machshavos Ra? Machshavos Ra with Imre Noam? Or is that impossible?
Like Machshavos Ra that like lead to an Imre Noam or something like that.
Or a person who like has Machshavos Ra but states Imre Noam, like says Imre Noam. Like for example, if just going with the Sadi going for a second, if Divrei Chachamim, I forgot to put Sadi Gaon here. Hold on. Sadia Gaon says statements of Chachamim, of the wise. Statements of Chachma, of wisdom. Like so for example, let's say you have someone who's a Rasha, but is also a Chacham, right? Like we asked about in the Q&A, like a Chacham Lahera, right? So he's got good statements but bad thoughts or bad machshavos. Yeah. Okay. You want to give an idea?
Yeah. So I'm gonna start with the second one. I'm gonna say that it's not talking about people, it's talking about a specific instance.
Okay.
So I think when actually a minimum subject, which I think is how your ulterior motives affect how your ideas and plans are expressed and perceived, and as a result of them.
Okay.
It's about, I'd say it's about having ulterior
Okay.
motives.
All right.
So the second half is saying it's I think it's really that when it's tahor, when you're saying it's tahor,
okay.
then they are imrei noam.
Okay. When your sayings are tahor, meaning free of ulterior motives,
Yeah.
i.e. free of ulterior motives, then they're imrei noam.
Yeah. And specifically what they're tahor from is the Machshavah Lab, which is the ulterior motives.
Okay, so free of ulterior motives, which are the Machshavos Ra. I'm going to question that in a second. Yeah, then they're noam, right? Okay.
Yeah, and I think the first half is expressing that if you have Machshavos Ra, then it's not going to just stay thoughts.
Yeah.
It's going to express itself, and then you're going to get bad consequences, and that's what the 12 Hashem is. I'm not explaining that just yet.
Consequences, and that's what the Toav Hashem is.
Yeah, and I'd say maybe the reason it's Toeva is that if you're trying to present yourself as, being focused on like what the objective good is, but you have ulterior motives sneaking through, then that's something that people hate and have like a Toeva reaction.
Yeah, and abominate that. Okay, so I like the general approach. I think my question is, so second half I like, and tahor is a sort of a high bar in terms of like there's no halfway tahor, like it's either tahor or it's not tahor, so I like that if there's any ulterior motives, then it won't be noam in the way that you're describing. But Machshavos Ra seem to be more than just ulterior motives. It seems to be.
Yeah, I'd say that's two extremes. So,
Okay. Oh, right. Yeah. So there's room for in between, right?
Yeah. There's like Machshavos Ra is you're not. But that's like the person who's really just trying to accomplish their goals and not focused on like let's say what the objective good in the situation is.
Yeah.
And the tahor is someone who's just thinking about just focused on the good of the
right. Okay, so then my other question is not a knockout question, but I understand that people will hate that. Toavas Hashem, though, to me implies something beyond just the way that this will be regarded socially,
Yeah, so I'd say, like what we discussed last week about when it comes to Hashem, that one of the approaches that we floated is that it link consequences to Hashem because it's part of the point of this is part of the system of Swarmonish that Hashem set up. And so I'd say that's what this is. It's not just like people happens to be the people don't like it.
And people are stupid. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I accept the answer. Yeah. So could we give it a real world example of this? I feel like it would help ground it. The first thing that comes to my mind, I don't know if this is a good example, but like I really always feel sort of betrayed when there's a YouTube ad that like looks really good. When a YouTuber talks about a certain thing and you think that they're being genuine, and then you find out that they're sponsored by the company, like and logically that does not necessarily mean that it is that it's bad, but it does throw it into question. It feels kind of slimy. That's why I always like it when people endorse like Tim Ferriss often will have used a certain thing for many years before they sponsor him. And if he can honestly say that, then you're like, okay, I can separate the endorsement from the fact that you're also being sponsored by this person,
Or or when they endorse something, they say, well, I'm not being sponsored by it just because.
Yeah,
just,
right. Right. Yeah. I don't know if that's the best example, but like that's the first example that comes to my mind.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna write it all. I'll just say example. Pure sponsorships.
Yeah.
Sponsorships. Sorry, pure endorsements. Endorsements versus sponsored endorsements.
Like secretly sponsored.
Yeah. Especially secretly sponsored. Okay, and then I'm just gonna note your why Toavas Hashem. So like we said in the previous pasuk, it emphasizes Hashem when to underscore that this is part of like Mishleic Mida Keneged Mida and justice built into the world rather than just like people's neuroses. Yeah. Okay, do I like this idea? Right, so the practical application then would be what? I mean, on a simple level, then if you want your statements to be noam, make sure they're tahor in this way.
Yeah.
Right, tahorim in this way. Yeah. Yeah. There's I'll give a real world example that I'm not going to record. Not that this person's going to listen to it. Even though tahor is an absolute thing, in practice, you can have worse and better applications of this pasuk. In other words, you can purify it as much as possible. Like for example, a politician in America, at least, there's always going to be an underlying suspicion that maybe they're doing this for votes or whatever, for support. So a politician will never be able to totally divorce themselves from that, but you can have people who are like clearly bought by special interest groups and people who are genuinely like passionate and objective about their cause, and you could try to create an image where you are divorcing yourselves from the ulterior motives as much as possible. So yeah.
I have another example.
Yeah.
Of this. So I think this is more on the good side. That so at work there's like my team and there's this other team, and the other team technology has problems, and it's because they're very focused on using a single programming language and not being willing to like diversify into a second one. So our team has been pushing for a while that they should be using a second one. So with my team's work, we've also been using only one programming language, and we were discussing diversifying into a second programming language for a specific thing, which is exactly the thing that we've been telling the other team that they need to do.
Right. So
I was thinking about it, and I thought that it actually might not be worth it for us to do that, like just to be doing a second language, but actually that it would be better if we just stuck with one. And so, I was arguing that even though this isn't like the thing that's like the best for like the like thing that we've been pushing for about trying to like influence other teams, that we shouldn't let that like influence our decision about what about how to handle that.
A little bit too complicated to have emotional resonance for me, but if it works for you, then great.
Yeah.
All right, you got an idea. Yeah.
So I have two different directions for Tefilah Hashem. I'm just not sure if they're connected somehow, but but one idea that I had was, in what way is it a Tefilah Hashem when you have Machshavah Lab is maybe like, I think your mind it's the most your mind is meant to be used for for righteousness. Like, that's literally, God gave that to you. That's like the only thing that you can't use for wickedness.
Right.
Like what I mean by that is like so that it can be succumb for Yetzer Hara. Like your guf, like in the physical world, like you have temptations for I don't know, eating not kosher or doing something that you shouldn't be doing in your physical body, but your mind is totally removed from that.
Yeah.
And I think Machshavas Ra, some people have bad thoughts, but I think that's the point. The point is like the fact that you're having these bad thoughts, you're kind of corrupting the essence of the mind, which is supposed to be 100% pure.
Right. Okay. That's a good interpretation.
Now, I don't know anything. The second half is very difficult to connect it with it. Now, the other direction that I had was this is more of like the mindset approach, like you have Machshavas Ra, which can affect your daily activities. And Toeva Hashem, like it's using the extreme because like you may think, oh, you're just having bad thoughts, but it won't necessarily, you may think it's not going to affect you.
Right.
But it will.
Right. Or because
it's like the scale.
Yeah, you think that this won't affect you because it's just your machshavos. So Mishlei like busts out the big guns, right? Yeah. So I think this is in line with my theory of Toeva, which we probably talked about earlier this year. I think I hold that there's three. So the function of Toeva is to stigmatize something, and there are, I think, 4 reasons why we stigmatize things. One is if it's really bad. So that's like Ariel's first interpretation. Second one is if it may or may not be bad, but it's insidious, that the consequences can creep up and people won't notice it. So you have to stigmatize it to like root it out. So that's Ariel's second approach. My third approach is if people think they can get away with it, like they could do it in secret or whatever, then it's used. And then the fourth, is there a fourth one? I think there was a fourth one. Maybe there wasn't a fourth one. I don't know. Yeah. So I think that works out. Yeah.
But for this idea,
for the second one.
Then I think I might have something for the second half. Like maybe it's harm Imre Noam. Maybe like the Imre Noam. It's funny. Why doesn't you like Imre Tzidkas or something? I don't know. Like just
Noam is weird. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Imre Noam. They're like it's I think the point is like like I think pure like tahar and like tahar and like tamei or like whatever it is, like it kind of like points to like kind of like I don't know, like some sort of like separation from like negative things. I think Imre Noam like the fact that you're using Imre Noam, like I think that in itself like will is good. Because it is, you are removing yourself from from some sort of negative.
Sorry, did you say what Imre Noam, like what types of statements we're talking about yet or not?
Positive things?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like
because I think this is why the question about why Noam, I think, is why I liked Isaac's approach, because Noam does make sense if you're talking about how people will receive it, like it's pleasant to people, And tahor works as an objective description, but
I'm saying more about yourself.
Yeah,
no, I'm not bringing another.
See, I personally think I don't have the full idea either, but I personally have an easier time with the second half for your first idea because because if you're using your mind, correctly and producing statements that are not corrupt or not, whatever, then like, I don't know, but then we'd have to see what the unifying subject is.
Let's flesh it out.
Is this on this?
My own idea, I think a lot of things are similar.
All right, sure. If it's similar enough, then we'll take it now. Yeah,
it's a little bit different focus.
Okay, sure.
So I think insofar as when we think of like a cascade of either good or bad actions, we often think, and especially in Mishlei, we think that like a principal action is what's going to make everything happen. But I think more so the Machshavah Lab or the Imre Noam can have more of that cascading of future effects. Where if someone has a bad mindset, that will do a lot more to cause evil to keep happening, to cause bad to keep happening, than one instance of a bad action happening. And similarly, or on the flip side, Imre Noam, which I would see as being things that are like encouraging statements, something of that sort. That's going to be much more effective at having more good things happen in the future than just one good action that has no driver put behind it.
Yeah, okay, can lead to a greater positive cascade. Okay, yeah, I do think that is an interesting approach here. Yeah,
I have a reading possibility.
Okay. That's for this or different reading?
I just want to know if this is
okay
potentially a valid reading.
Yeah.
So could you read an implicit noun into with Tehorim? There's that is saying that Machshavos of bad are Tehorim and Machshavos that are Tehorim are in no.
I don't think so because Machshavos are feminine.
Okay.
Yeah, Sean? Different approach? Okay, hold on. Yeah. Let's just think here. I mean, because one easy move, I think this is a legitimate move, I think, is that Machshavah expresses itself in Dibor, right? So I think you could say that this is really talking about, the first half is talking about Machshavos of Ra that do express themselves in Dibor, which is the opposite of what you want to say, whatever you want to say Noam is. And then the other one is the good thoughts. And I do see how David and Ariel's ideas can merge. Yeah.
I have like something in line with
okay.
this. Like a person can think that their thoughts don't really matter. I mean, I'm
right.
reading this all as being like Ben on a or like judging other people or being jealous and stuff like that. And so you can think like your thoughts don't really matter. So this is coming to tell you one that your thoughts do matter. Not only, and the way to counteract that is not just with good thoughts, but actually by outright going out and saying good things to them.
Okay, but they do matter, and you can bolster good thoughts through speech. Yeah, that's a good general message. All right, let's set this on the side burner, not the back burner, and just go to what Sean's approach is. Yeah.
All right, so I think it's actually now leave a
okay.
little bit in what Oren's saying.
Yeah.
Which I agree with Oren's first half, is people think that their thoughts don't matter, and specifically people think that they can hate people in their heart and like think badly about them, and that it's not going to influence the way in which they interact with them.
Right.
And that the point of the pasuk is to show you it's going to seep into your way of interacting, your way of speaking to them. Even if you don't notice it and you think it's not there, it is very much present there. And so your conversations with them and with other people about them are all going to be corrupted. And it's going to end up harming all of your relationships. And so like it's again, I think within the Toya that you were talking about, of a person doesn't realize how dangerous they think that they contain their emotions and thoughts about people and that it won't come out in what they're doing. And so it's very important that they realize just how easy it is for them to slip up in this. Yeah, okay, good. So that's good for the first half. And then for me, and then Imri Noam I get also, but Tehorim, you have an explanation for Tehorim? I mean, I think Imri Noam is the opposite, that the only way in which your statements can be pleasant is by having them be pure of this emotional anger or disgust that you have towards people. Okay, so that people think I think people think that there's this like middle ground of like, I can slightly hate you, and it won't come out in the way in which I interact with you and speak to you. But the reality is the only way that your statements are going to be truly known is if they're tower of this phenomenon. Right. Yeah. So this is
There's also a middle ground of where people think, well, I can just think nicely of you but not say anything. That's also a middle ground. Right? It's saying that that's also not good enough. You have to yeah, that's good. Yeah, that fits in more with yours than with Sean's. About how to promote this. Yeah. So just a practical question. This is not a cushy on your idea, but just a practical question, which is like what are you supposed to do if you can't purify your thoughts in this way? And you need to interact with people.
Just gotta suck it up.
Yeah, because what my intuition is telling me here is that there is a way. So ideal thing would be to achieve this level where you actually view the person in a generous manner. I do think that there are ways where you can purify your thoughts, but still be realistic and still have the emotions that you're feeling. What comes to my mind is the what's it called? TSJS. The first chapter of Marcus Aurelius book 2 that we analyzed this summer. So at the start of the day, tell yourself, I shall meet with people who are officious, ungrateful, abusive, treacherous, malicious, and selfish. In every case, they've got like this because of their ignorance of good and bad. But I have seen goodness and badness for what they are. And I know that what is good is what is morally right, and what is bad is morally wrong. And I've seen the true nature of the wrongdoer himself and know that he's related to me, not in the sense that we share blood and seed, but by virtue of the fact that we both partake of the same intelligence and so a portion of the divine. None of them can harm me anyway, because none of them can infect me with immorality, nor can I become angry with someone who's related to me or hate him, because we were born to work together like feet or hands or eyelids, like the rows of upper and lower teeth. To work against each other is therefore unnatural, and anger and rejection count as working against. And if you're interested in a deep dive in that, we have 3 shiurim from the summer. But the reason why I'm going to this is because he's not denying that he finds these people annoying, right? He's not denying that like these people might actually objectively be bad, but he is being dan l'kav zuchus in the sense that he's recognizing the common humanity and recognizing that this only happens to them because of their ignorance, you know. And I think that this might not be the ultimate level, but like I do think that if you view them in this way, you won't have as many of the bad effects that Sean is saying. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm just saying that for it to be fully tahor,
Yeah,
or for it to be fully imrei noam, it needs to be tahor.
yeah, correct. Right. Yeah. Okay. I think it's a good approach. So as you see Marcus 2:1. Yeah. Okay, let's read Metzudas David and then come back to this for tomorrow, just to get this in our minds. Yeah.
I'll say one thing about Sean's.
Yeah.
Also, I think the awareness that you need to be working on your thoughts is
that's big. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's not a private zone that's just going to be contained. Okay, Machshavos Ra Hamadaber Rachos U'Machshavos of Lara. Ah, there you go. So he also puts in speech in the first half. So he's saying someone who speaks gently, softly, you know, pleasantly, but his thoughts are for evil, right? So that is a certain duplicity here, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that I think goes along with what Oren was saying is like, yeah, I can just think badly, but like I can, as long as I'm like presenting myself in a pleasant way, but this is speaking against that. U'Tahorim ru'uyim imrei noam lios tohorim. Oh, that's where the art school got it from, right? It's roi. They should be tahor. It's proper for imrei noam to be tahor mibli tarovos machshavah ra, without any admixture of bad thoughts, right? So I feel like this is an indicator that we are on the right track here, because I think all of these.
Yeah, I think all of these we've been reading, you know, the opposite of Shahor, the first half.
Yes, right. I think that's a good move. Yeah. All right, so let's continue thinking about it and then come back to it tomorrow. See ya.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Right.